Okay, we are live.
Cool.
We'll just wait and see if people come on in.
Come on, Eileen. She's down on her knees, ready for your squeeze. Your big
I would love if
cheese.
somebody just popped in right as you were saying that.
Or like the Hamiltons hear me downstairs singing.
Yeah. Wow, what if nobody showed up?
Fuck it.
That would be pretty great, huh?
Yeah. That would mean they don't care.
That much. Care enough to leave a comment once a month.
I mean, if Jason Levy isn't here, we have to troll him.
I know, right? Hey, Jason, didn't see you at the call.
It was very productive, and you missed everything.
Some great. Hey, somebody's here. Hey guys, we are just getting started. I see that somebody just popped in. I think our first person. I can't see who it is. I wish I could see who it is. If you want to pop into the chat, we're still kind of figuring out how this works too. Pop into the chat or say something on the event page and to just let us know you're here. Looks like there's 2 of you guys here. We're gonna wait a couple minutes to just let people get on the call here. Let us know in the meantime if you can hear us and if you can see us. I'm Freeman LaFleur, and the other person on this call is Curtis Bell. I am in Portland, Oregon right now. Curtis is, where are you, Curtis?
I'm in Tallahassee, Florida.
Tallahassee, Florida.
Usually in Denver, Colorado, but
on a business trip. Oh, it looks like maybe we've got, oh, Bridget's here. Bridget Cutshell is here. Thanks for coming, Bridget. Looks like there's 4 of you guys now, so we're going to wait a couple more minutes. I know 11 people RSVP'd. So I just want to give everybody a fair chance to get in the call before we really start. So we just want to give you guys a quick update on how things are going on our end, and then take some questions from you, and then talk about what the future holds as far as these producer calls. We want to do more of these throughout the production to just keep you guys updated on where we're at, and to keep you in the loop as we get closer and closer to a rough cut that you guys will be able to watch. Looks like there's 3 people now. We were at 4. I'd love to know where you guys are all at, where you're all from. It'd be great to just know more about you guys, and we'll tell you guys a little bit about ourselves as well. Let me see if I can turn on the Q&A thing here. I don't know, it says this feature's disabled. Jason, hey, see Jason is chatting here. It looks like Jason is here, but he maybe can't see anything. Sorry guys, we'll just wait another 4 minutes until 10 after the hour to get everybody in here. Bridget's in Georgia, nice. So she's kind of near you, Curtis. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a way for you guys to talk to us. Rather than just through this little chat below here. Oh, it looks like Jason says it just started. So we're just kind of waiting. If you just joined the call, we're waiting a couple minutes to just get everybody on here before we start. In the meantime, it'd be great if you guys introduced yourselves and where you're from, just so we can get to know everybody a little bit better. again, we're gonna first give you guys just a quick update on where we're at production-wise, and then we want to answer any questions you guys might have. And then we'll talk about the future of these calls, because we want to do more of these calls in the future as we get closer to a rough cut for you guys to watch. Looks like there's 5 people now. We're going to wait 2 more minutes until we really get things started. If you have questions, feel free to start entering them on the event page. I'm not really sure if there's an easier way for us to all chat. This is one of the first times we've really done a live hangout, so we're just kind of figuring it out as well. But if you say something on the event page, a question, we will we'll check it out and we will answer it in this this live call. Hey Curtis, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I don't know why, but we can't see you. Let me try to see if I can I don't know. Yeah. Oh, there's your video.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Well, let's get started. There's six people here so far. If people come in after this point, they can just jump in. So we're really excited to do this call with you guys. Oh, Jason says he can hear me. There's a static black window with a round edge of someone eating pho. He says, yay. Okay, so I'm guessing you guys can at least hear us. Hopefully you'll be able to see us too at some point. It could be a bandwidth issue on our end. But we're really excited to have you guys here for this call. And we want to do more of these for sure, because I think this is really, it's going to keep us invigorated as well about the project. But I'm in Portland. I'm Freeman LaFleur. And with me here is Curtis Bell, who's right now in Tallahassee, Florida. Jason and Lauren are here. Oh, you guys are in Tampa. Really, very cool. You guys are coming in from Florida as well. So we are right now, where we're at with the film is we've gotten much deeper into the story, and we've also learned a lot. I mean, it has definitely taken us longer than we ever were hoping or imagined this production to take. But again, this is a pretty intensive project for our small team. But it looks like Curtis said his is the only camera that seems to be broadcasting. It's okay. We'll just roll with it. Yeah. But we're learning a lot, and we're really enjoying the process. And really, the biggest thing that I think has been setting us back time-wise is that we keep running into topics that we need to elaborate on. Like, we don't have enough content. We don't want to narrate everything. I think that a documentary that's just narrated is not as good as a documentary where you have the actual interviews and the characters of the story telling the story, pushing the story forward themselves, as opposed to us having to come in and fill in where we just have gaps. And we really want to create a strong film where everything that we talk about and say is supported with interviews and stories. So there are a couple still that we are wanting to film. Those are going to happen in March. Our actual filming dates, just to let you guys know real quick, is we're looking at March 23rd through the 30th. Curtis and I will both be in California again to follow up with a bunch of interviews that we just weren't able to get the first time around. I mean, the last time we were in California to shoot was in actually March of last year. And we were in such the beginning stages of this project that I think we just weren't fully aware of everything that we needed to capture as well, everybody that we needed to talk to. And as you know, with documentaries, a lot of the story, you have an idea, and I'll talk to you guys about our kind of our outline, but our story outline. But you have an idea going into it, and then as you talk to people and hear stories, the story, your ideas change and evolve, and your outline grows, and things that you thought were going to be in there now are not going to be in there, and you want to follow new leads and stories. And so you know, a year ago, I mean, this was before even the Kickstarter, we went to California and we did our initial interviews there. And that's really what, you know, we were going there as a way to kind of also test out, is this a viable idea for a film? Are the stories there? And is this, yeah, is this a good idea? So it was really an exploratory kind of trip for us. We spent a week between Orange counties, San Diego, LA, San Francisco. So it was a whirlwind week. But we were so invigorated after that. That's what gave us the confidence to start the Kickstarter project a couple months later. And it also gave us some of that initial footage to have in the Kickstarter video. So we have been itching to go back to California. We are just kind of waiting for the right time to open up in Curtis's schedule and my schedule. If you guys don't know, Curtis is he's a private chef. So he kind of follows his family around wherever they go and cooks them food. And I recently just finished up a contract. Oh, there's an alarm going off. I recently just finished up a contract as an editor for a reality documentary series that'll be coming out in 2017. But so we were really waiting till the right time, and March is the right time when we can both take off a solid week or two to really get the rest of our interviews. So I'll just tell you a little bit about the interviews we're going to do in California at the end of March. We're planning on meeting with Diane Trin. She is a food scientist. She's been a food scientist for companies like Coca-Cola in the past, but she's also a professor. I want to say, I don't remember which university in California. There's too many universities in California. I can't remember them all, but she's also a professor in California, food science professor, and she is also one of the people that pioneered the kind of pho powder broth like starters, which is a really interesting topic that we are interested in for the film, is to talk more about those pho powders and broths and just the evolution of the process of making pho and how people are able to do that at scale. But she's a really interesting contact that recently came to light that we are really interested in talking to. The food science part of the film is really important because pho is such a nutrient-dense dish that a lot of people know about, especially younger people in like millennials in our generation. They know about it because it's rumored as like a good hangover cure. And there's a lot of nutrients in the bone broth. So we want to talk to a food scientist about those elements and what makes pho broth so good and hearty. So Diane Trin is going to be a really big interview for us. We're also going to be talking to a couple different owners of restaurants as well that came over from Vietnam during as refugees. One of them is the Saw Leaf Cafe, and another of them is Pho Hua in San Diego, which is one of our favorite pho places in the United States. So we're really excited to get down there and to chat with those people. We also have, what else do we have in the LA area, Curtis, interview-wise?
Let me take a look over our Trello page.
Yeah, we'll look at that. Then in San Francisco, we are still trying to pin down an interview with Andrea Nguyen from Viet World Kitchen. And we're emailing back and forth. She's interested in the project, but she has a very busy schedule. So I may actually end up flying there in April as well for a couple days, just meet with her and my fam in Sacramento. My fam is one of the few people that's really done a lot of research on the history of pho, actually. She went to Vietnam. She talked to lots of people in Nam Dinh, which is one of the places we went in Vietnam to try to trace the history. And she also owns 2 restaurants in the Sacramento area and has a really great, just fascinating story of how her family came over to the United States when she was a teenager, the day before the fall of Saigon. So a lot of really good stories still to capture, and I think that's one of the things that's really been interesting about this project is the further we go, more just great, interesting stories we find, and we really want to include as many of these as possible. And And I'm of the thought process or the school of thought that more footage, more interviews are better, especially when you're trying to put together a feature-length film. As an example, the documentary series I just finished working as an assistant editor on was 800 hours of footage that was shot over a 4-month period, and we trimmed all that down into 5 hours of completed footage for a TV show series. So you start with huge volume of footage, and that's what we're still building our volume of footage, and that's just because we're such a small team and we're simultaneously editing, doing story development, shooting, and working with translators on the interviews. The interviews that are translated are a really interesting process too, because we have to have them translated and time stamped throughout the translations, and then we go through and we have to try to find where that's said, that piece of text that we want, or that piece of dialogue that we want, and then we have to confirm with the translator that that's the right piece of dialogue. So it's really a back and forth process to do those interviews that were in Vietnamese. But back to our original thing is that we're going to California in March, probably in April as well. And that will be the conclusion, actually, of our filming. We do not plan on doing any filming past our few interviews in California. Beyond that, we've gotten everything that we need in Portland, Seattle, Colorado. Now, if we feel like we have time to go to other places, we might, but at this point, we have no plans to go anywhere else. I think that's going to give us enough. We have quite a bit, actually, of interviews, but it's really just like key parts of the story that we need to fill in some gaps and use those interviews as supporting interviews. So that's where we're at filming-wise. Production-wise, we recently switched from using Final Cut Pro to Adobe Premiere. We're having some issues with Final Cut Pro too, which were putting kind of the project files in danger, just some weird bugs. We back up all the project files on 3 different hard drives, but I just feel like Premiere is a better system for us. So we just recently transferred over to that, and we're starting to really cut together scenes. The problem was we had built some scenes out, but then we reorganized our story, and some scenes needed to be put into other places and reorganized a bit. But we're definitely still making progress, and I think for us, we definitely underestimated the amount of time this would take us, and that's definitely my fault because I'm the one that knows most about production, and I should have just seen this coming. But we really do want to make a good quality film. I mean, this is something that we care about this project. We care about this film. We're not just going to cut together something that just barely works and narrate over missing pieces. We really want to make a good film. So I'd say that's where we're at. Anything you want to add, Curtis?
If there's anybody with questions,
I think let's
feel free to write that into the event page. I don't think since the video is just apparently solely on me, I don't think we have a chat bar for that. But enter some questions in the event page, and let's see if there's anything that we missed, so we make sure to have answered what you came here for us to be answering.
Yeah, I would love to hear you guys' questions, thoughts, anything about the process, how we filmed currently, or any questions about pho, the things we've found along the journey. We'd love to answer any of those type of questions. You could ask us about other Vietnamese food, because that's going to be a big part of our story. But Curtis, you want to keep an eye out for questions, and I will tell you guys just in the meantime a little bit more about our story.
We just got one in, Freeman.
Okay.
So, and first of all, thanks again for sharing your story. That is really cool. I'd love to hear more about your family's story, especially that you're half French, your mother's half French and half Vietnamese. That's really cool.
That's interesting. We've met a couple people actually that are half French, half Vietnamese when we were in Vietnam as well.
Yeah,
So that's fascinating.
makes sense.
A lot of Vietnamese went to France, yeah.
Yeah, and I understood on your question as far in Freeman, her question was how long do we expect the documentary to last? And I think we've discussed it being a feature-length film, as they call it, but planning that to be probably anywhere from, what was it, Freeman, 35 to 60 minutes?
No, so feature length is 40 minutes plus.
40 minutes
That's
plus.
what a feature length film is. We plan on hitting right about an hour is our target length. I think that we've watched a lot of documentaries over the past year, Curtis and I, about food. And some of the ones that we see parallel to ours in style and thought process is, one is The Hunt for General Tso. That's a really great food film that is kind of an origin story type documentary. And that one, it clocks in about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. And it felt a little long even to me. I think food documentaries are perfect to be in that 45-minute to an hour long documentary. One shorter one that I really liked that was actually a Kickstarter as well was the Sriracha documentary. If you haven't seen that one is one you guys would probably all be interested in as well. Griffith Hammond did a really great job with that. He was a one-man production team himself too, shot all on one camera, him and a friend of his. And theirs came in at about 35 minutes, and it didn't feel too short or too long for that matter. But I think we have so much content that we will have so much content too that we will be able to fill that 45-minute to an hour range. But I'm really kind of going for an hour, and yeah. So Curtis looks like his mind's blown right now. I don't know why. What I thought that face was. Oh, we can't hear Curtis. Curtis is muted, it looks like. Let me go to the settings.
So, here. I'm back. I must have done something because I'm hearing everything twice. There's a lag in my audio, and it's confusing me.
Okay. But I don't really know where we were. Oh yeah, hour length is what we're shooting for, and we've kind of broken that down into essentially stories. Like when you do a short film, for example, you can do usually about 3 to 5 minute stories. So I think we're kind of shooting for 5-minute stories that all fit into and make up this whole one cohesive arc. So let's see, any other questions here? Jason says, had such horrible experiences with other Kickstarters. I have had actually bad experience with Kickstarter too, and I've heard of a lot of bad experiences, and actually I feel like there's more and more of them circulating around the blogosphere, people talking about failed Kickstarters, especially hardware Kickstarters that can be really hard to pull off. But you know, we're really dedicated to this, and you know, we raised $10,000, which, as far as film budgets go, is very small, but it was enough to get us to Vietnam and to get us to do these couple key places, get to these couple key places where we needed interviews. So, and we're just dedicated to this. I mean, we started this as a passion project. This was not something we started to make a bunch of money off of or ever had that intention. I think we would have approached it differently if we had. This is very much a passion project that we're very passionate about. That's what the idea for this whole film came from, our own passion for food and for this dish and Vietnamese food in general. And you know, going to Vietnam, meeting the Vietnamese people, even increased that passion, I'd say tenfold, because they're really some of the nicest people that I know I've ever met. And I think Curtis feels the same way. I mean, there were moments where we were crying because when we had to leave, because it was such an intense experience, and we heard so many amazing stories and met such kind people. that it really was a life-changing experience to go there, and it reinvigorated us. And I think every time we talk to another person or we have these calls with you guys, it reinvigorates us and it gives us energy. And I think that's partially why we wanted to do this call too, and want to do these future calls, because not only does it give us energy, it also keeps us accountable. And I think accountability is a super important thing. So yeah, let's see. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, well, first of all, we appreciate your feedback and happy to see that you're happy we're communicating. We want to keep you guys as up to speed as we can.
Yeah.
David Waller had another question about us with any thoughts on screening the documentary overseas. He's from Australia. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, in person, that could be hard for us to do. It just depends on the future of this film. I'll give you guys a little bit of an idea of where we're at in our thought process as far as distribution for the film. Again, because this isn't something we're looking to be a huge like commercial project or commercial success, we're really just looking to get as many people to see the film as possible. And so I think our main goal is to complete the film, and then we're going to submit it to as many different kind of food film festivals and Asian American film festivals and different related film festivals that we can. If some of those happen to be in Australia, then that would be really awesome. We'd love to show the film in Australia. We've had actually quite a few people ask us about screening in Australia. I don't know if it's just been you, David, on multiple platforms asking us that question, but we have had multiple people ask us about coming to Australia to screen the film. We plan on doing a little mini screening tour where we go to pho restaurants and we screen the film at pho restaurants. So if you end up being in one of the places that we do that at, then you'll get to come see it. Now, we haven't set any definitive places for that. We know a couple of them. Obviously, we'll be in Denver, one in Portland. We're doing one in Houston.
St. Louis.
And St. Louis, yeah. And that schedule could definitely expand because we haven't focused too much on that portion of it because, again, we're a small team. It's mostly just me, Curtis and I. We have a couple people helping us in Vietnam. And but because we're a small team, we need to really focus on each step with all our brain power. And the last couple months have also we've been really trying to fulfill some of the lower backer rewards to just get those out of the way so that we don't have to think about them anymore. So that's been definitely something that we've been focused on the past, I'd say November and December. There was a lot of that. But we're really back in the film. Curtis and I have had multiple meetings over the past couple months where we've really been just pruning and fixing and improving our storyline, where everything goes and fits. Curtis, you want to take over for a little bit while I pull up our story Trello board?
Yeah, sure. I saw SMAC had a question here also of what are all the different locations that are going to be featured in the documentary. And I'm curious if you mean in Vietnam or also here in the U.S.
Well, yeah, I'd say, I'll list all the places I can think of. Curtis, you tell me if I'm missing them.
Okay.
So we'll have Denver, we'll have San Diego, the general Orange County area, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, and then there will be in Vietnam, there will be Hanoi, Nam Dinh,
Hoi An,
Da Nang, Saigon,
Canto.
Yeah, I don't know if any footage from Canto will make it in there or not, but
Sure.
There will definitely be Saigon in there. I think that's everywhere so far.
Yeah, so far. For now.
Yeah.
Whether or not we make it to any other cities is really would come down to our budget and our availability to move further.
And the need. I don't think we have the need to go too many more places to fill out our story. I mean, you could take this story, you could go very far with the story, and we have to make a lot of decisions about how deep do we go into different elements. For example, you know, the history of Vietnam is a very, it's a very complex and rich and deep history, and there's so many stories within the history of Vietnam, and it's got a very complex history, and I think you could make an entire documentary just about that. So our focus isn't just the history of Vietnam; it's also how about this cuisine, the Vietnamese cuisine, and the science of pho, and the different dishes in Vietnamese cuisine, and so there's things like also the Vietnam War, where you could go much deeper into it, and it's definitely an important part of this story and essential to the spread of pho. But you know, an hour goes by fast. An hour goes by fast, and we only have so much time to tell so many stories, and we have to tell the core elements of the story, the major points of how pho traveled across the U.S. and there are so many. We've heard so many amazing refugee stories, for example, that we can't even tell all of them. And
Well,
to visit every place where the major refugee centers in the United States would be cost prohibitive, but it would also it's not essential for us to tell the story. It would give us too much. You know, you could make a film just about the different places that that Vietnamese refugees went after they came into the United States, and so you know, our focus is still pho. We have to keep that as the core focus. We always have to keep that thought as the core focus. So while, you know, we could go to places like Chicago and Houston, which are both large centers of Vietnamese immigrants, those places are going to be talked about in the documentary, but we probably will not go there to film. We definitely want to go to those places, though, to premiere the film and do the screenings. So if that answers your question. I don't even remember what the question was. I think I got off track.
Yeah, well,
any other
it was just all the locations we have filmed, and where I guess where we will. But I think that answered it as thoroughly as I can imagine.
So I'll tell you guys a little bit about the story, the kind of arc, the story arc. I'm just going to give you guys really the brief outline version. How are we doing on time? 12:35. Okay, we're good. So it starts with it will start with an interview with the gentleman that we interviewed in Da Nang. His name was Lam Bao Lo, I think. That's how you say his name.
I think you're pretty close.
Yeah, it's hard for me to pronounce Vietnamese names. But it will start with an interview with Lam Bao Lo, a nice montage transition, traveling back in time from Da Nang back to the United States. And then it will go into a beginning credits scene, which is a montage that takes place at a pho restaurant. Just a montage of the whole process of the restaurant, you know, getting started, getting ready for the day, the customers streaming in, making the pho. So that'll be our beginning credit montage. Then we will go into talking about the pho experience. The whole, you know, the experience of pho, like going to a pho restaurant, people's first experiences at pho restaurants, people talking about how pho is pronounced, because there isn't just one way to pronounce pho. Even in Vietnam, you know, I thought I'd hear the same way to pronounce pho everywhere in Vietnam, but I swear almost everybody in Vietnam pronounced pho a different way. So it's a very subjective thing, kind of like pho itself. Everybody's version of good pho is different. Everybody puts different things in their pho. And, you know, Curtis's favorite pho in Vietnam was different than my favorite pho in Vietnam. So that's what's so great about pho, is it's also got, you know, even the variations in the way that people say the name pho is fascinating to me. So we'll talk about that, the flavors of pho, the condiments that you see, pho kind of creeping into pop culture. Then we're going to talk about the pho ingredients and the science of pho, the nutrients and effects, of starry anise, coriander, cloves, the bone broth, the fennel, the collagen in bone broth, things like MSG. Then we're going to go into kind of more the history of Vietnam, and we're gonna, we're not gonna go too deep into the history of Vietnam, but it's important because the history of Vietnam is also the history of pho, and pho evolved as far as we think, and everybody that we've talked to, from what we gather, pho really evolved when in Indochina, when French had colonized Vietnam. It started most likely in Hanoi when the French came in the 1920s. And it moved south to Nam Dinh as people were taught how to make pho in the capital, in Hanoi. Curtis, you want to add something?
I was going to say, yeah, well, it's still debatable, and we wish we could find the absolute answer like the guys in General Tso's did, but we have a dish that's a little bit older, and the person who first made pho is probably not still alive. So we won't be finding.
Certainly, yes, yes, certainly. And yeah, that was. I mean, we went to Nam Dinh, which was a little. Well, it was a town, but a place where there's no tourists. I mean, people were taking pictures of us because they hadn't seen tourists in the town. People were stopping on their motorbikes and snapping photos of us, and it was a really surreal experience. But again, everybody nice as could be. But we talked to various different people in Nam Dinh about the history of it, and who, we talked to a lady whose family had been passing down this pho restaurant for generations. She had been making it for 40 years. She learned from her father, who learned from his father, who learned from somebody in Hanoi. So it's really still debatable about the history of it. And we are going off of what we found, and my fam did a lot of investigation, and she found similar things. It's definitely a hybrid of French and Chinese, Cantonese cooking that seemed to bring those two things together. The Cantonese had brought rice noodles to Vietnam, and people ate that with meat, rice noodles with meat, but there wasn't really the broth component until the French came along and really started teaching Vietnamese how to make soups. So that's kind of the thread we're going on as far as that particular topic goes, which I know is maybe the most controversial part of the history part of pho. But what's very fascinating to us too was that as you move south, we started in the north. We did that very intentionally because that's the birthplace of pho. And we moved south with it, traced the steps of pho, and we ate so much pho. I mean, I remember one day, I think we had 5 bowls of pho in one day. It was the only thing we ate. We ate it for breakfast. At 7 a.m. we had our first bowl of pho, and we kept having a bowl of pho for about every couple of hours, doing interviews, talking to people.
Meanwhile, it was almost 100 degrees out with 100% humidity, and so by the 5th bowl, we were
pouring
pretty
sweat
over it, but it was wonderful at the same time.
Yeah, well, it was just it was an exhausting day and experience for sure. We were riding around on the back of scooters through dense traffic all day. By the end of the day, I had a major headache from all the fumes. But we kept eating pho, and I remember Curtis didn't feel well at the beginning of that day, and he was a little hesitant about his ability to eat pho for every meal, but it seemed almost like the pho made you feel better.
It did. It was incredible, actually. By, I think, the 3rd bowl, I felt like I had come back to life. So
there you go, healing powers of pho. But there were days like that where it was nonstop pho, and we followed pho down south, and the flavors changed as we went south. And I remember one place in particular in Hanoi where we went, and they served it with like a little peanuts, like there was peanuts, ground up peanuts in the pho, and I remember Curtis really liked that one. But definitely the flavors of pho change, and the condiments change. In the north, in Hanoi, there was vinegar, garlic vinegar that you'd put into the broth. There was a Chinese donut, which you dip into the broth, and it was actually delicious. Lots of red chilies. So very different from the South. The South, you see very much like the pho that we have in the United States, or probably in Australia.
We do have another question here from Bridget. What types of meat did we get in our pho on our Vietnam trip? And that was something that we found interesting, because it was there. Most places, most vendors, each specialize in one cut of meat or their own personal blend. And so we saw everything from eye of round, brisket, the flank and tendon that you would see. We didn't really see any tripe or anything like that. What else would you think, Freeman, that I might be missing?
You know, it's harder for me because I'm not as good at identifying the different types of meat as you are, and saw a lot of different meat. I mean, you know, we saw every kind of meat you could probably imagine being sold on the streets and being put in various bowls. But I'd say for the most part, we stuck to, beef, tendon, tripe, chicken.
There was
very similar when you say to like pho in the United States, as far as meats go. Didn't see any really weird or exotic type of meats on the menus. Did you?
Pardon? I was reading a question.
Did you see any kind of exotic or different types of meats that were unfamiliar to you on the menus? Do you remember them?
Nothing that was unfamiliar or crazier than stuff here.
Yeah.
So there's two new questions here, Freeman.
Okay.
So SMAC said, you mentioned its history and evolution within Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Did we notice the same in our travels within the U.S. or elsewhere? Which is a great question, and something I've been, there was a lot of evolution we saw there. But we've noticed in America that, and Freeman, I don't know if you want to take over on this, about pho in America and its relation to Southern style or Saigon type pho.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the predominant type here. There are places here that serve Northern style, but the predominant type seems to be very Southern. Even the Northern style here has more Southern style condiments. I've like, for example, I have yet to see the ginger or the garlic vinegar served here, or the Chinese donut served here, which are very Northern type things. I would say that most of the pho in the United States, is based on the Southern pho. And that's because, I mean, until we had the massive influx of refugees here at the end of the Vietnam War, we didn't really have pho here. We didn't have much of Vietnamese food at all. So that huge influx of Southern Vietnamese refugees is what brought pho here. And they were all bringing the traditional recipes that they knew of here, and so that meant Southern style. And a lot of the differences in Northern and Southern style come from availability of ingredients. The South has different produce than the North, and also different meats. For example, like chicken and beef are more available in different areas. When pho was first around, actually, I think, Curtis, totally correct me if I'm wrong on this, but they weren't really eating much beef in the North because it was too expensive, and they used their ox and their cattle as work animals.
Yeah, it was their beast of burden. Cows weren't also introduced until obviously the French came and brought it there. So that was part of.
There was water buffalo was something that, like, the Cantonese brought. The rice noodles with water buffalo meat, but it wasn't really like the beef cattle as we know it. So
our next question here is from David, saying, any thoughts about a book about pho? We could take advantage of all of our research. And that's a great idea. And actually, one of the backer rewards that we had added through the campaign was a book that we are working on called Chasing Pho. And Freeman, do you want to expand on that?
So the book is it's done, but it's we're undergoing the proofing process, which we want to get right, and we will be offering an expanded version at some point after the film is done. We want to focus as much on the film as possible, but we will do an expanded version that will be available at some point, and it's going to include even more of the stories from the travels, more of the details about the differences in the fuzz, and more photos, and probably more recipes. The current book has how many recipes, Curtis? 5?
Yeah, I think 5.
Yeah, 5 recipes, including a pho spring roll. It's really interesting, that we discovered kind of in Saigon, really, people making pho spring rolls. But yeah, we're definitely going to do an expanded version of that book, but I can't tell you when that will be available.
Okay, and then our final question here that I see is from Bridget of what condiments were specific to the Southern pho, which is more closely related to what you would see here in the U.S., which is the bean sprouts and basil. Freeman, you want to?
Yeah, no, bean sprouts, the basil. You have some chili sauces, the jalapenos. Actually,
Green onion.
The jalapenos, the green onions.
Well, actually, not necessarily jalapeno. Did they have actually jalapenos?
Yeah, I saw actual jalapenos in the South. Now, not super common, but I did see actual jalapenos there. But it was still mostly green and red chilies for the most part.
Because that was something we actually noticed was we didn't see any jalapenos anywhere else in the country, which I didn't necessarily expect to see them. I figured there would be whatever peppers were regionally available, and so the fact that you actually, by the way, I left Saigon before Freeman did, so he got to eat more pho there after my departure.
Saigon was, it was very clean broth, very similar broth to what we have here. Very similar condiments. I actually prefer the chilies to the jalapenos, I'll be honest with you. I love the chilies. But very similar, and huge portions of like the bean sprouts. I remember going to one location in particular where I got this stack of bean sprouts that was bigger than my head. I mean, it was huge. It was a giant platter, like a serving platter, just full of bean sprouts. I didn't even know how I'd use them all. But yeah, very similar to the type of things you'd see here. It was really the North where it was more exotic as far as condiments. I mean, you had even like salts. Like an interesting salt that was available as a condiment. So a lot of different things, but eating pho in Vietnam is a whole different experience. I mean, it's mostly something that people eat in the morning because it gets so hot as the day goes on that by the time noon comes around, you don't really feel like eating a giant bowl of hot soup. But I'll tell you what, though, people still packed into those pho places, even for lunch. One of the most memorable bowls of pho we had, though, was it was an evening bowl. It was a dinner bowl, and it was on this corner, and it was a fascinating experience to see. We weren't really allowed to film much of it. The lady did not want us to film, but it was really cool because she comes out at 5 p.m. She sets up her plastic chairs and her giant vat of pho broth right there on the sidewalk on a corner. It's a busy street corner, and a bunch of people show up. They just know she's going to be there. They come, and she sells out within a couple of hours, and everybody sits on the corner and just eats the pho, and it's just on a busy street corner, and it was such a, actually, I think that photo that
I was going to say, I just turned off my video, so my screen should come up, and there's a little picture. And that's the picture of me on that corner eating pho.
And I really wish that lady would have been okay with us doing an interview and filming the experience. We got a little bit of footage, but she was a little hostile about the filming, so, which is okay. But yeah, it was really fun, really fun.
Ooh, good question just came in from Jason. What was the political environment like while we were in Vietnam?
Surprisingly, I didn't know what to expect, and I think, I read blogs about what to expect in Vietnam, and a lot of people had very negative things to say, just about the people and the political environment. But going there was a different experience, and we ran into almost nothing but kindness the entire time. But I would say it's different from north to south. In Hanoi, it's very fascinating. Every morning around 7:30, there is the morning announcements that blast on loudspeakers throughout the city. They sing the national anthem, and they tell news stories that are mostly kind of propaganda, honestly, talking about how the government is helping people, helping veterans of the American War, and it's very propaganda-y, though, and that happens every morning. The South is a little more capitalist, I guess you could say. It's similar to kind of what's happening in China, where China is kind of trying to do their own spin of capitalism and experiment with capitalism in certain districts. So Saigon is similar. There's definitely, I can tell, a capitalist spirit, especially in the young people, very entrepreneurial, really, really inspiring to see there. But the South is very different than the North in architecture, in even, I would say, some partially the attitudes as well. But we tried not to venture too far into politics. We did talk with people there about the political situation, especially our interpreter and friend Kang. I had a couple conversations with him about politics, and but it's still very much a communist state. There's billboards everywhere that are celebrating the communist state and celebrating Ho Chi Minh. So it's definitely it's a fascinating experience to go to. I've never been to a communist country. Curtis hasn't either, and there were things that I was definitely surprised by, in mostly all in positive ways. And it didn't seem to affect our day-to-day lives or being there, and I couldn't see outwardly too much how it affected people's lives who live there. Now, I do know that there are lots of things that they have lots of problems, like they don't have clean drinking water. Everybody there drinks bottled water, even the people that live there. Everybody knows the water is not safe, and that's just an example of the failure of the government there. And I mean, it's a huge metropolis, Saigon. It's growing. It's supposed to have 20 million people by 2020, which is huge.
Well, we let's see. There's a couple more questions that have come in. I didn't want to miss the one from SMAC about the pho fusion dishes, which I'll step back to in just a second. But I think it's relevant right now. Jason asked that they still talk about the war 40 years later, and also, were we allowed to go anywhere and film anything, or did we have an official guide?
So I will say they do still talk about the war. Young people do not. Young people are very kind of past it, I would say, because they didn't really grow up with it, that it's something they're just trying to get past, and they're trying to build a new future and a new history for themselves.
We honestly didn't encounter too much conversation about the war. I think it's
mostly the government.
It was a surprisingly small amount that was directed towards that we directly experienced.
It's similar to here. I mean, the people don't talk about it really, but the government still uses it as a tool. For example, talking about in morning announcements how they're helping veterans of the American War, and it's called the American War there. So it's definitely still a topic. I mean, and a lot of the propaganda posters are celebrating the victory, the Ho Chi Minh's victory. So it's definitely a thing that they are trying to use as a way to keep people remembering what Ho Chi Minh did for the country, is what they say. So it's definitely part of it, but it didn't affect us, and it wasn't like North Korea, where in North Korea you have to have minders or guides that follow you around and tell you what you can and cannot film. It was I mean, we never had an issue with any kind of government officials. We never had an issue with any police, everybody was super nice. And, you know, having a translator and our own guide that we had found ourselves was super helpful. I mean, it would have been impossible to do it without him. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways and things that I've learned, at least, with this, is just how important people are in a project, and getting good people and the right people are, because without Kang, who was our translator and now our good friend in Vietnam, we wouldn't have been able to, it would have been we wouldn't have been able to do anything. So he was so key in getting us interviews and getting us around and helping us connect with other people who could get us interviews. And he did so much groundwork and hustled so hard that I can't imagine, if we had not found him, what we would have done. So yeah, but we didn't have any issues filming anything. You know, we were careful with what we filmed to an extent, like trying not to film a lot of government buildings or, you know, make ourselves stand out too much. But, you know, we were there to mostly film a documentary. But I did film lots of propaganda posters. I filmed government buildings, but not for extended periods of time. So we didn't have any trouble. You know, even I have just a quick story of just like how nice government officials were to me. I mean, the customs officials, when we got into Hanoi, it was not a great like first impression, because they were very cold. But I know that's how they're supposed to be. So it made us a little nervous at first, but I will tell you, when I went to Saigon, I had went into Thailand and I came back into Saigon, and I went through customs, and I did not actually have the correct papers printed that I was supposed to have printed. I had them on my phone, and they were super nice about it, helped me find a place to try and print the papers. When that didn't work, they actually they let me go. So let me go through. So, and they were very understanding and helpful. And again, like I can't say enough good things about Vietnamese people. I'm actually surprised, and I just never expected to come out of that experience just telling everyone I meet that Vietnamese people are the nicest people I've ever met.
You also had a pretty easy time when you almost lost your passport.
I'm sure I almost did lose my passport, but when was that?
When we first flew into Saigon.
Oh yeah. I left my passport on the airplane, and they sent somebody up to the plane, got my passport for me. It was less than 5 minutes from realizing I didn't have it to getting it. So it was a good experience. Did we squeeze in any beach time? I don't think so.
There was one night in Da Nang that we walked along the beach.
One night after we'd done 2 interviews that day, and we were exhausted, as we were every day. But
in Hoi An, we also had dinner kind of near the beach, but no, I mean, we never went to the beach during the day.
Yeah, it was really, honestly, just because, well, it was really hot, and when we were not out filming or hunting down interviews or doing interviews, we were pretty much sleeping and resting or eating. I mean, it was like that. I mean, it was a whirlwind trip. We weren't there for super long, so we had to really make every single day count. And but man, now I just want to go back, and I want to do the tourist thing. Like, there were so many tourist things that we never got to do that I would have loved to go do. But I will tell you, the one thing that we did that was a little more off the trail of the Pho Trail was when we went to Canto, and that was experience. We stayed at a homestead there with a family in kind of the countryside near Canto. And they were so kind and hospitable to us, and they took us on their boat to see the markets in the morning. And it was just an amazing experience to end the trip. And yeah, I wouldn't have had it any other way, even though we got eaten alive by mosquitoes. And our poor translator, Kang, he had at one point, I mean, how many mosquito bites did he have on his legs?
Well, he had a blanket of mosquitoes on his leg.
That he didn't know about. Yeah, till we pointed it out. So, but yeah, the trip was really great.
Anyways, real quick, let's step back and not miss the question that there was about pho fusion dishes. Like he said, like burritos, tacos, burgers, sushi, etc. Do we see pho staying as a comfort food, or do we see it growing beyond that? And I think that goes both ways. I think pho will always remain a comfort dish, and it as it is because it's so prolific as a bowl of pho. But these other ideas that are growing right now and picking up steam, the burgers. I've seen pho soup dumplings in Brooklyn called thumplings, which I've tried to recreate. The pho burritos, all that. I think those things are kind of more of a niche market items that will have their place, but I don't see them growing to the popularity of pho, nor do I see pho losing its spot as far as comfort food and what it is. Evolution is natural, and I'm sure the cuisine will continue to evolve. And that's something that we'll talk about a little bit in the movie too.
Yeah, the movie actually, and I didn't finish telling you guys our entire storyline, I realized, but I will just say that let me just go through a couple of them. So we have pho in Vietnam. We talk about the history of pho. We talk about the Vietnam War, the refugees coming to the country. We're trying to tell as many of those stories as we can. Then we talk about pho in the U.S. and the evolution of pho restaurants in the United States and how that whole trend started. Then we're going to talk about other Vietnamese dishes that we really liked, like bun bo hue, mi quang, bun cha, banh mi, to just name a few. And then we really want to talk about what's next for Vietnam and Vietnamese cuisine. And that's really kind of the way that we're going to finish off the film. So we will definitely talk about the future of Vietnamese cuisine. And yeah, the nature of food is that it's always evolving. And that's where Vietnamese cuisine came from, was the evolution of food and the fusion of food. I mean, Vietnamese food is fusion food from two other types of food that were also fusion foods from another type of food that came before that. So it's really hard to say like any cuisine is completely original. It's usually always a fusion of different cuisines, and that's just the creative process in any art form. I think food is very much an art form, and any artist is inspired by the other artists around them and the artists that came before them, and that goes into their art, and you can see that in their art. But it's usually a fusion of their own thoughts, their own creative process, and infused with the people that they respect and the people that came before them and influenced them. So I think food is the same way. Just like my filmmaking style is a fusion of all the people who have influenced me, and my editing style is influenced by the editors I've worked with. So, yeah. If there's no other questions, we'll just kind of wrap up this call. We want to do more of these, so we're thinking we'll try to do one of these every other month. You obviously don't have to come to each one. We want to do that, though, until we finish this film. Now, the next one would then be in April, and we expect by the end of April to be done with all filming. We will wrap up all filming by the end of April. So then the next one would be in April, and then the one after that would be in June. And we would expect in June to start to show you guys rough cut footage at the latest. So that's kind of where we want to go with these calls. We want to keep you guys in the loop, the producers in the loop from here on out for the rest of the production. And I think this is the best way to do it. It's much more intimate and gives us a direct link with you guys. And as the production process continues and we get deeper into wanting to show you guys rough cuts and get your feedback, because that's part of your reward and part of a producer's job is to look over the rough cuts and give feedback. So we want to keep you guys in the loop as we get closer and closer to that part of the process. But, you know, I just want to say thank you to you guys. I really appreciate that you guys came here, and I love seeing that other people are just as excited about this film as we are. And, you know, that's what started this, was our passion and excitement for this topic. You know, we planned on making this film regardless of whether the Kickstarter was successful or not. It just depended on, you know, the Kickstarter was going to help us just make it a great film, a feature-length film. If we didn't do the Kickstarter or it wasn't successful, we would have probably done a short film, and that would have been fine with us. But, you know, because of you guys, we're making a feature-length film, and I just want you guys to know how much we appreciate your support still to this day, and we are making this film for us and for you guys, and we're just thankful. Anything else you got, Curtis? You are muted, by the way. Just want to make sure you know that. I don't think, I don't know, Curtis is still muted, but.
I'm back. Sorry, I don't know how I got muted.
And Jason, we'll be posting an update. I was waiting to post that update until after this call. I just wanted to see if there was anything that came through here that would be useful over there. Yeah, I hope you guys had a good time. I hope you enjoyed this call and got some of your questions answered. And yeah, we look forward to the next conversation with you guys, and to really giving you guys more of these scenes to look at. We're just as excited and just as anxious as you guys are, trust me. We cannot wait to see the final rough cut of this film just as much as you guys can't wait. So, yeah.
Yeah, and keep in mind, as Freeman said, we'll be doing more of these discussions, and so write down some questions if you have for our future chats that we'll be having here, and maybe even we'll figure out how we can get you into the video. So so it could be maybe a little faster on the questions.
Yeah.
But I think this was a great forum and a good discussion, and great having all of your questions.
Yeah, there's a Q&A tool here. I know that we haven't figured out how to set up, and we can also bring people on. So it might be kind of cool to bring some of you guys on and chat face to face. I think that would be really great at some point, and maybe to even you know, it might be kind of fun in the next, maybe in the April one or the June one, to also show you guys a little bit of the editing process. We could maybe look over some of the timelines in Adobe Premiere and just show you guys what that looks like, and show you some of maybe the equipment, and yeah, just show you the process of how a scene is made. Maybe we'll break down one of the scenes in Adobe Premiere, and you guys can watch and see how it all comes together, because I think, for me at least, I geek out over that kind of stuff. I love to see how things, especially projects, come together. I love to see the process that artists go through to create a finished product. And yeah. Cool. Anything else, Curtis?
Cool. I think that's good, and appreciate that everybody is so happy and seems satisfied from this call. So we're really really excited that this has gone so well so far, and really looking forward to bringing you guys more information as things come along for us here.
And if you guys also, we have been not updating it as much as we were, but we still update the Instagram from time to time with photos from Vietnam and from the production. So we'll continue to do that. So if you guys want to find us on Instagram, that's instagram.com/Phocumentary. And that's a great place to just see more visual stuff. And yeah, I think that's it. Cool, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys soon.